What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Chronicles of a Modern Day Samurai. I'm your host, Zeus. Today, we're going to be talking about the fabulously comfortable topic of body dysmorphia. All right, let's get right into it. Man, this topic is something that I was reluctant to talk about. And as I was kind of going over today, or actually last night, what I wanted to talk about on today's podcast, I was like, man, I really wanted to discuss this issue and bring it to light. It's something that, has basically haunted me my whole life, or a good majority of it. And but it's not easy to talk about. Mental health nowadays has become a lot more accepted. It's come to the surface a lot more, and people. It's not stigmatized as much as it used to be, but there is still a stigma around it. I mean, especially when you feel like you're the one kind of with the issues or suffering with that mental health issue. It's not the easiest thing to talk about, especially not on a social and public forum like this. But I feel comfortable talking about it, and if me talking about it is going to help anyone out there listening or watching this get through it and understand that they're not alone in this, then I think the purpose of it has been for good reason. So again, today's topic, we're going to be talking about body dysmorphia. Now, what is body dysmorphia? I'll read out Wikipedia's description of body dysmorphia or definition. So what does body dysmorphia actually mean? I'm going to be going over here Wikipedia's description or definition of it, of body dysmorphic disorder, more formally, or BDD, occasionally still called body dysmorphia, is a mental disorder characterized by the excessive idea or obsessive idea that some aspect of one's own body part or general appearance is severely flawed and therefore warrants exceptional measures to hide or fix it. In BDD delusional variant, the flaw is imagined. If the flaw is actual, its importance is severely exaggerated. Whether the physical imperfection is real or not, thoughts about it are persuasive and intrusive and may occupy the mind of the sufferer for many hours and days and for an extended period of time, causing severe distress and impairing otherwise normal activity. So as you can imagine, from this definition, it's something that could be actual or could be imagined. I would imagine in most cases, we are all very different. And so, I think in most cases it would be imagined. But again, if you do have something that is an actual flaw, then again, as this definition states, it is exacerbated by having this mental illness. So that is the definition. I think if you are suffering from it like I am, that pretty much fits me to a T. I'm going to be going over a little bit of some of the symptoms and how you can kind of more granularly define to see if you do actually have this condition or not. But if that kind of resonates with you, then as uncomfortable as it is, then you may suffer from body dysmorphia. Again, there's no shame in it. A lot of people do have it, whether it's spoken about publicly or not. It is something that is, again, very common. So yeah, it is something that, again, mental health in general has come to light, with social media and everything a lot more nowadays than it had been, let's say 15, 20 years ago. But it is still stigmatized in a lot of ways. So you may be reluctant to get help or anything like that, but, that's not really the best thing for you. So I think talking about it is one of the best things to do to kind of overcome it. And that's what we're doing here on this forum. If you have the mental disorder, if you have body dysmorphia, if you think you have it, or you're challenged with it, then leave me a comment below. I would love to interact with you guys to kind of see what your journey looks like. Because again, an important part of getting over it and trying to get better is, I think, to talk about it. And so I think this is a great platform to do it. So we went over the definition of body dysmorphia, but the prevalence of body dysmorphia, I think, is throughout many industries. It's not just with professional athletes. It's not with people just, that are gym rats. I think it occurs in a lot of industries. I've had the great fortune of meeting a lot of athletes in my life through my journey in fitness and athletics. Obviously, being a 6-time nationally qualified bodybuilder. Now, let me just tell you, me saying that is no way in shape or form bragging. It actually means that I didn't qualify to become pro 6 times. So it's kind of, I kind of outed myself there. But, I did compete at I would say semi-professional level in bodybuilding for, I don't know, on and off, maybe 10 to 15 years. And, that doesn't come without its, having taken its toll. I think bodybuilding more specifically has a very severe version of this. I mean, if you want to look at it, kind of imagine like a full spectrum of body dysmorphia, just like any mental disorder. On the left, you have people that are kind of really, they may have some symptoms, but it's not really debilitating. It's not really, intrusive on their lifestyle. It's not really, causing that much harm or taking too much time or energy. And then you have the folks on the very right where, this is debilitating. It's something that they think about very often, whether it's every hour or every minute. I mean, it's something that causes them, a massive amount of grief and stress. And then of course, everything in between. Now, the severity of body dysmorphia can change just like anything else. I mean, you can feel better at times and it can get worse. I remember when I was competing in bodybuilding, I mean, this was the absolute worst. And I think for me, I had a certain level of body dysmorphia, ever since I played, high school football. That desire to always want to get bigger and better, I think was always there. I think this thing of body dysmorphia, I don't know. Again, I'm not qualified enough medically to say one way or another, but I think for most people who have body dysmorphia, I think that it's something that comes over time. I don't think anyone's born with it, but I think again, it's something that's developed over time through the events or through social media, through your physical activity, through your desire to compete and get better. I think is quite a common reason. But for me, I know it started quite early, again, playing high school sports and wanting to get better and bigger and faster. And so I started actually powerlifting in high school when I was 15, 16. That's kind of how and when I was introduced to weightlifting. And again, I mean, something that comes, I think, more or less commonly in that kind of sport, in that arena, is just your desire to get better. And so with that comes, I think my first phase of body dysmorphia, of thinking like, okay, my body isn't good enough, it's not big enough, it's not strong enough, I want to strive to get better. I've certainly I've always kind of been known as the tall, kind of skinny guy. I'm about 6 foot tall. Right now I stand at about 205 pounds. But in high school, I was like, maybe $155, and I know, for someone of that height, I was quite skinny, especially playing high school football. And so I always had kind of I was a little bit self-conscious of my weight. I've always wanted to get bigger. And especially because of the sports I played and the type of sports I played, I wanted to get exceptionally big. So I think that was kind of the beginning of my journey of where, the catalyst for body dysmorphia originated from. Now, again, if you're a gymnast, or if you're an athlete, if you're a runner, if you're a tennis player, whatever it is, that might come with its own inherent, challenges of trying to become something that is at a much higher level than perhaps you are. And that may be the culprit for, again, the origins or the exacerbation of body dysmorphia. So this may really take the shape and form of many different origins and how it progresses throughout one's life. Now, as I mentioned before, the prevalence of body dysmorphia, I think, happens in a lot of different industries, happens in a lot of different cultures. I mean, I think this is something that I wouldn't say a pandemic or an epidemic, but this is something that's very common. I know a lot of people tend not to talk about it, but I think again, myself, having been in the industry of being around a lot of athletes and bodybuilders and stuff like that, I know for a fact that, a majority of my friends that are in the industry have some sort of body dysmorphia, whether it's not as severe or very severe. I think most of my athletic friends have some sort of version of this. So again, if you are feeling this way, if you are unhappy about certain parts of your body, if you're unhappy about the general appearance of yourself or anything like that, just understand that you're not alone in this, because again, it's a very common mental disorder. I mean, I know saying mental disorder makes it sound a lot worse than it is, but it is something that's quite common. So I think you should find relief in knowing that, hey, this is something that's really in common, whether you're in shape or you're not. Body dysmorphia isn't exclusive to males or females or whatever your gender is. This is something that happens in both women and males and whatever you are. It's a very unusual thing, because it's almost like the more fit, the more athletic you are, it seems to me, in my experience and talking to people, that the severity of body dysmorphia actually gets worse. I mean, it seems a little bit counterintuitive because, you know, you look at these people in the gym that are cut and jacked and big. You think that they'd be like, okay, like they're there, like they're doing very well. They look phenomenal. They really shouldn't have any, you know, self-consciousness. They shouldn't be very uncomfortable with any part of their body. I mean, how could they? They look like a Greek statue. But, you know, I think, again, in talking to enough athletes at a professional level, it's been my experience in that those people are actually the ones with the most severe form of body dysmorphia. Again, if it differs, then let me know in the comments below. But again, in my experience, the more fit you are, the more at a higher level of whatever athletics you're involved in, the more major and more severe the body dysmorphia is. I think that comes down to just their desire, their elevated desire to be better and become the best at what they do. Because once you get to, let's say, for example, I mentioned bodybuilding. Once you get to like a national level from a local level, you're competing against people that have all won at a local level. I mean, so these are top-notch athletes that are really just one competition away from going professional. And then again, furthermore, once you're at a professional level, I mean, these folks are at a much more elite level of competition. And so you can imagine that as you progress through, and again, this happens, I would assume that this is applicable for any sport, whether you're a cyclist or you're a runner or you're a swimmer, you play tennis, you're a jiu-jitsu player, whatever it is, once you start getting higher and higher in kind of the level of skills, the level of players that you're going against, of competition, I would assume that pressure of becoming even better at that level, or maybe sustaining that level of being a professional, adds and exacerbates your body dysmorphia. So just something to be aware of. If you're just an enthusiast and you're just, you like going to the gym and you have some sort of mild version of this, again, it's a lot easier to deal with than I think, being at a much higher level of being like semi-professional or professional, where this is really almost life and death. I mean, it's something that kind of defines who you are. It really shouldn't, but what you do a lot of times kind of defines, who we are. And I think it's important to understand that as you move up in the competitiveness of whatever you're involved with, this mental illness of body dysmorphia may often may get worse. So just keep that in mind. Now, what are some of the signs? What are some of the symptoms of body dysmorphia? You may be listening or watching this and saying, I don't know if I have it. I mean, who isn't, self-conscious about, a certain part of their body, whether it's their belly fat or their thighs or whatever, or their triceps. I don't know what it is. Everyone has something that they would like to fix or get. I mean, and I think that's normal. I don't think that would really count as body dysmorphia. I think we're just all human beings wanting to be more perfect, so I don't know that I would personally classify that as body dysmorphia. It may be a mild version. Again, I'm not clinically qualified to say yes or no to that, but here are some common symptoms that you can keep an eye out for to see if, hey, maybe I do have body dysmorphia. The first one is excessive self-criticism. If you're at the gym and someone says, hey, man, you look great, and then you're like, I could always get better. If you're that type of person where you can't take a compliment and feel happy about it, then again, that's something that you could say, oh, well, that might be the first signs of body dysmorphia. If you can't take a compliment or you're very self-critical about the way that you look. The other thing, I think this one's a little bit funny because we all, I don't know. I don't follow people around in their house, but I certainly do this. But it's looking in the mirror excessively. Every mirror you see in the mall, at the gym, at home, you're always kind of doing that like that double take, So if you find yourself doing that, and it's a constant thing, again. Not that looking in the mirror is the definition of body dysmorphia, but if you find yourself doing that a lot and other people notice, then that may be a sign that you have body dysmorphia. Seeking reassurance. Now, if you're, again, I mentioned the example of being in the gym. If you're working out with a gym buddy, if you're working out and you're cycling with a gym buddy and they give you a compliment, right? Is that something that makes you feel good, or is that something you feel like you need? If you don't get self-assurance, if the person you're working out with, or your husband or your wife or your boyfriend, or social media is a big one nowadays, if you're not getting likes and follows and comments on the way you look, does that make you depressed? Does that make you sad? I mean, is there like a more of a desire, but like a necessity for that? If you're finding yourself in need, almost desperately for reassurance, then again, that's something that you might want to look into as far as like whether you have body dysmorphia or not. Hyper focus on particular parts of the body. Again, this does not mean that you either have or do not have body dysmorphia just because you are hypersensitive about a particular part of your body. If you're happy with the general look of your body and your appearance and how you feel, then you are perfectly healthy. If you feel a little bit self-conscious about the way you feel, then I think you're still okay. You're normal. You're a human being. But if you find yourself excessively stressing over a particular part of your body, again, I'm going to go out there and put myself completely vulnerable by sharing this. I tend to carry more fat around kind of my belly, my lower belly area, and my what you call love handles. I've always been like, if I could be super ripped in my legs, I mean, I could be vascular in my legs and I'll still be a little bit soft in that area. Again, to someone watching me at the gym, I mean, they're like, hey, listen, you look great. There's nothing. But for me, again, I mean, I know myself and that's what kind of bothers me. And so have I thought about a surgical option? I have. Have I done it? I haven't. But that's another example of a good kind of barometer to see, okay, like, do I have a certain measure of body dysmorphia? And I think for me, the answer is yes, because again, that mid area for me around the stomach, around the love handle area has always been something, a place in my body that carried a little bit more fat than I would like. I know so because, I would get down to like 3.5% body fat in preparation for my contest, my bodybuilding contest. And I would do a back pose and I didn't have that like perfect taper down to my waist. I mean, there would be a little bit of like, a little bit of thing there. And I would get docked off for it. I get minus points for it. And so, I mean, bodybuilding probably, I would imagine, and I would take a guess to say amongst all sports out there that could exacerbate this issue is probably the worst because you are literally getting judged. You're literally getting judged by a few judges that are giving away points and standings based on their subjective opinion about you. And you're open to it. I mean, you're paying money and you're giving up 12 to 15 weeks of your life to get judged. And so that really, I think, exacerbated, at least for me, my body dysmorphia. That certainly did not help it at all. And looking back on it, would I change anything? I wouldn't, because I've become who I am because of the experience that I've had. Bodybuilding, just like, if you're a triathlete or anything like that, is not something that, a majority of the population can or is willing to do. And so, I have a profound sense of accomplishment from that. So I got a lot out of it. I think what I got out of bodybuilding was a lot more than what it took for me. I mean, does it come with sacrifices? Of course. Does it come with costs? Of course. And I consider, this level of body dysmorphia that I had, that I continue to struggle with and challenge with. I just feel like that's a cost of doing business. And so as long as it's manageable, I think it's okay. Now, if it gets out of hand and it's something that consumes your life, then again, you need to go seek help. I talked about it a little bit before, but nowadays, especially over the last 10, 15, 20 years, social media has become just a normal part of our lives. If you don't know social media, you're probably living in a cave somewhere. But I think for a majority of you, especially watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or whatever other platform, social media is a big part of our lives. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And we're consuming a lot of information. We're consumers of social media content. I think there's a lot of study out there that compared social media influencers now to celebrities, and more people identify social media influencers than they do movie actors. And so the social media, needless to say, has become a significant part of the way we live our lives and how we communicate. So, but again, as it relates to body dysmorphia, social media, again, can be a great thing to draw inspiration from and to draw drive. And to communicate and build a community. However, it is a very dangerous and slippery slope if you have body dysmorphia, because what social media does is it puts out an unrealistic, and sometimes literally unrealistic, because people are photoshopping their bodies, and posting these things, and then you're consuming this stuff on a daily basis. So what you're thinking is like kind of normal and healthy. Now the standards have changed. Whether again they're manipulating it through photo editing apps or through Photoshop or whatever it is, they're manipulating it. Now you can take, within a period of 1 hour, you can literally take a shit photo with bad lighting and crappy clothes and a bad pose, and then you can change all that up, put on makeup, change the light, change your angle, and then you look phenomenal. You literally look like you lost 20 pounds of fat and you put on 10 pounds of muscle just by doing that within the hour. Now, has the body actually changed? No. You're within an hour. All you did was edit. You did what you needed to make yourself look optimized on camera. And you have to understand that if you're consuming social media content and you're following fitness people and you're a fitness guru, keep in mind, it's okay to aspire to have a certain physique or anything like that. But keep in mind that the stuff you see on social media is not reality. I don't know if you ever go to like fitness conventions. Like I've been to like the Arnold, I've been to Olympia. I was surprised at the first event I went to because I used to follow a lot of these fitness stars. And then I would see them in real life. I go, oh my God, they're a lot shorter and not as fit as I thought because I only see them on social media. So it's important for you to understand, again, if you don't have the opportunity to see a lot of these fitness people in real life and understand, wow, they're like kind of normal people. Now, when they're getting ready for a show or a photo shoot, of course, they're going to look optimized. They've got tans, they've been dieting, they're taking diuretics to dry out or whatever supplements, to help them look better, and the lighting and the photography and all that. But just understand that this stuff is optimized and it may or may not be reality. What they look like in real life and what they look like on Instagram may be completely different. In all likelihood, completely different. So understand that. So if you're consuming a lot of this fitness content online, it's okay, I think. But I think you need to, if you are having body dysmorphia, I think social media could be really, really not good for you. It could exacerbate the existing body dysmorphia that you have. And if you don't have it, it could start to create, it could be the origins of you starting to feel self-conscious. And so just be aware of that. Now, I think, as I mentioned before, if you have a mild version of this, I think it's okay. Again, we're all human. We all strive to be better, and it's okay to have, perhaps it challenges us, perhaps it gets us out of the couch or out of bed and into the gym. And I think if you use it that way, then it's great. You're using it as a positive force. If it starts to consume your life, if you start to lose your appetite or get stressed, your sex life suffers, or anything, any of those symptoms that you feel when you're overly stressed, if you're starting to feel these things, then I would encourage you to seek help. Now, I know, again, there's stigma around getting therapy or seeing a shrink, whatever you want to call it, but who cares? The most important thing is your happiness. So if you feel like this is getting out of control, then I would suggest, again, find out the origins of what's making it worse. Social media oftentimes is a culprit. So if you feel like jumping on Instagram too much, or start unfollowing people. Start unfollowing these fitness people that are making your problem worse. If it's social media in general, get off of social media for a couple of weeks and see how you feel. You have to start to identify where the stuff is coming from. If you're diabetic and you're consuming a lot of sugar, would you continue to eat a lot of sugar to exacerbate your diabetes? Of course not. Now, that's a physical. The diabetes and the sugar is a physical change. This is equally as bad, but it's a mental thing. Just because you don't feel it all the time, just because you don't have a stomach ache or you're feeling nauseous, doesn't mean that it's not affecting you. Your mind is equally important to your body. And this is a version of, I would say, if you're going to compare anything, this is a version of a physical illness, a medical illness, but just mental. And it's easy to ignore that, but I really think you shouldn't, because again, it's so monumentally important to have good mental health. Now, if you feel like you have a moderate form of body dysmorphia, again, I would categorize myself in this bucket of people. I know that I have body dysmorphia. I can identify with a lot of the, if not all of the symptoms of body dysmorphia. But I'm not to a point where it's debilitating. If you're in this bucket, just like I am, here are a couple of things to help you cope. admitting that you have body dysmorphia. Now, as any good therapist would tell you, admitting and accepting the fact that you have this, I think, is a very important first step. You could be in denial, but I don't think that helps. So accepting the fact that you have body dysmorphia and identifying the origins of where this comes from or what exacerbates it on a daily basis, I think is your first and most important step. The next step would be, again, not anything that you're focusing on externally, but focus more internally. So like you're doing on that selfie, look internal to see what you can do. Find yourself and find activities that make you feel happy, that make you feel proud, that make you feel a sense of accomplishment. That may be going out for a walk, that may be talking to your friends, that may be going out and having a workout. Whatever it is that makes you feel good, that makes you feel good about yourself, that improves your confidence, I think is really important part of the process of getting over and managing this body dysmorphia that you may have. Setting realistic milestones. If this is something that is kind of teetering on the more severe side, then I think it's important for you, and I would encourage you to set realistic milestones. So as opposed to thinking, okay, I want this thing gone in its entirety, which I think is unrealistic, set little milestones for yourself and be proud and celebrate your mini victories. I think, myself included, I am so bad at celebrating mini victories. For me, I feel like my life is never accomplished. I mean, I feel like I've done a lot, but I just don't feel very accomplished. And I don't know where the quote comes from, but I really like the quote of saying, feeling unhappy about the lack of success you have, it will always lead to unhappiness. And so if you don't celebrate those mini victories, then you can never be happy. So I would encourage you to set realistic milestones, mini milestones for yourself. And once you've accomplished those things, to celebrate it. To have a little 5-minute a celebration on the fact that you accomplished those, and then go on to the next thing. I think that will help and overall help you manage and get over body dysmorphia. The next great thing I think will help is finding yourself around and surrounding yourself with a diverse group of people. I remember, again, even so now, I'm going to admit this, my group of friends is mostly around fitness. So when I meet up with friends, it's either through a workout or we're doing something physically active, and they're mostly in shape. And so this might, again, exacerbate my body dysmorphia. If I feel like a friend of mine is bigger than me or more jacked or more yoked, I'm gonna feel a little sense of like self-consciousness. So surround yourself with a diverse group of people. People that like to read, people that like to talk about politics, people that like to blog, people that like to work out, people that are in politics, whatever it is. I think surrounding yourself with a diverse group of people will, again, take the attention away from whatever is causing your body dysmorphia, so that you can broaden your horizon into other areas of interest, which I think will kind of dampen the hyper focus on whatever is creating that discomfort and that self-consciousness around the body dysmorphia. All right, guys, I know we covered a lot here. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as a topic on body dysmorphia. I just wanted to finish off with this. Listen, guys, if you have body dysmorphia, whether it's a moderate version or a very severe, I just want you guys to understand that it's very, very common. I'm standing here being vulnerable and sharing with you guys that I have body dysmorphia. Most would kind of classify myself as someone that's fit, right? I mean, when I go to the gym, I get compliments and comments about the way I look, and it's okay, but it's okay also to have this thing called body dysmorphia. It's something that I think, again, is exacerbated by the things we do, such as jumping on social media and stuff like that. But it's something that comes with the territory. And I think if you look at it, again, perspective is very important. If you look at it as something that's very debilitating, it will be. But if you look at it and say, okay, like, am I going to use this thing to make me better, or I can use it, or it's gonna use me to become worse? I think it's up to us to make that determination. So if you're listening to this and you think you have body dysmorphia, understand that it's okay. I would encourage you guys to share it. And I think the first thing and the most important thing in how to combat this is to share it and to talk about it and to put yourself out there to where you're a little bit vulnerable. Share your story with your friends and your spouse on like how this has affected your life, and talk to them about how it may have started, because the truth is it may be plaguing them as well. And so to have that conversation, I think, is very important for curing and for managing this mental illness we call body dysmorphia. I know there's probably people out there, I like to call it closeted body dysmorphics, where, you know, if you talk to them, they'll say, oh, that's not me. I'm completely comfortable with who I am. I think there are closeted body dysmorphics out there. If you are, again, you're in the ether. I won't know who you are, but if you're a closeted body dysmorphic, again, there's people out there, I want you to understand, that could use your help. So by you sharing your story, then there's someone out there, and I'm sure either one or more, that you can help. And so think of it that way as well. So as opposed to being closeted and holding that and suffering on your own, perhaps you can find someone that you can talk to share your story. Perhaps it'll help you, perhaps it'll help the other person. So in conclusion, I know we talked about a lot here. This is a very sensitive subject for a lot of people. Again, I was reluctant to create a podcast on this, but I thought it was important enough that I share it, because I know one or a few people listening to this are going to be sympathetic and empathetic to kind of what I feel and what I've been dealing with my entire life. Again, it's not something that's debilitating for me, but it's something that I've learned to manage. And in conclusion, I just want you guys to know this. It's not the end of the world. It is something that's very normal, but I want you guys to love yourself. I want you to feel empowered by the fact that you are normal. You are a human being. And the fact that you have this doesn't mean that you're any less of a person. It just means you're a human being. So find comfort in knowing that. And if there's someone out there that you can share your story that you think would help them or to help you cope with it, I would encourage you guys to do that. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Man, I really like making these episodes, and I hope it makes an impact positively on your life. And if you want to hear any kind of content, let me know in the comments below. I would love to create more content that, again, would help you and the audience out there. And of course, as always, don't forget to subscribe and like this. It'll really help me to create more and better content, again, to help everyone out there. So until next time, guys, thank you so much.